Not a problem. Hi, everyone. So excited to be here today, especially with my favorite co host, Beverly Glazer, who is focused on women's empowerment. And today's discussion will center around our keyword, which is emotions. Chat's wide open. Would appreciate and welcome comments and thoughts so we can be as relevant and to whatever point that we can bring most value to the viewership and create some wonderful takeaways. So feel free, we're here for you. And with that, I'll introduce you to Beverly, and Beverly can start out with a little bit of an update, possibly, and first thoughts on emotions.
Okay, first thoughts on emotions. Good one. Well, my first emotion was pretty stressful because I'm trying to get in on the restream stream. And there's always a bit of complications, even though I know I'm supposed to meet, and I did meet more than 5 minutes before. So, emotions, we are bottled up with emotions, and we're going to be talking about that, how we can use those emotions productively, emotional intelligence, which is extremely important in life and business. And what I do is I help high performing people to navigate really the stress between their business, their family, their relationships, and in some case, even addictions, to be able to take care of their lives. You can always find me also for more information on reinventimpossible.com. But emotions, we all have them. We can use them productively. We really, truly can. And we can also turn people off. We can be detrimental to our work lives if we don't handle our personal emotions. We may know what to do, but the way we present ourselves can completely turn people off and turn your whole company literally south, or anything that you do want to do, because you're not presenting yourself, your image, your company in a productive way where people will respect you and you can be a leader in your own game. So, we're going to be talking about all this stuff. And for me, this is really fun stuff for me because I change mindset. So, it's all about emotions, and whether we are in a family or a relationship or parenting kids. Big one. We have to learn to deal not only with the emotions, but accept other people's emotions. We're going to be talking about that too. I'm welcoming your questions. I'm welcoming your suggestions. I'm welcoming Dawn's questions and all kinds of things that Dawn is going to say about emotions. Because do you think Dawn is always this really laid back guy? Ha, let's ask Anne, okay? and and that's the truth. We are people, and we're driven by emotions, and we present ourselves a certain way, and that can work positively, and it sure does, Dawn, for this show, 100%. Or it can work negatively, and people will say, I can't deal. And it's really up to you to be able to handle your own emotions, and one step further, to read other people's emotions so that you could work together and be able to strategize and make things work for both of you. And I repeat, both of you, because any relationship in business, or whether you're handling team or whatever it is, for them, it's all about them. And for you, it's about reaching them. So let's talk about that, Dawn. And yeah, you must have been pretty emotional, wondering whether I'll ever get on.
No, I knew you'd
No,
get there eventually. And also, I'm so prepared for something that isn't expected.
exactly.
Then when it does show up as unexpected, it's almost expected. So that's a little bit of a twisting way of getting around to that question. But what I love about what Beverly's able to do to start off the show is take something as broad and as important as emotions and put it in proper context, articulate it in a way that people can relate to it. And that's what makes for a thoughtful, valuable conversation. Now, to take it to emotions, after hearing what Beverly had to say and doing a little bit of thought prior to the show, it's all about balance in my mind,
Mhm.
right? There's a point where emotions really help you because they can really focus on key areas with more than just words, but with feelings. It's only when you become overwhelmed with emotion that it overflows and now it's getting to be too much. Or on the other side, having too little emotion, which makes you a little bit more stagnant, static, if you want to call it that, where people are wondering, I hear the words, I don't get the emotion to it, I don't get the feel to it. And, emotions also demonstrate the importance of what you're dealing with, right? In emergencies, your emotions are sky high. You're yelling for help or whatever it takes. And in conversations that require a little bit more finesse, a little bit more openness, where you don't want to crowd somebody out and you don't want to preclude somebody from sharing their emotions, because sometimes your emotions will be contagious with the
Yeah.
people around you. If you start laughing uncontrollably, you're going to elicit laughter. If you start crying or feeling really bad, that's going to transfer. So a lot of it is, what do you project? What do you also infer or bring inside? And when are you a quality match in a conversation
Mhm.
where you're gauging emotions to the subject matter? I mean, to get really emotional over something that has no real importance is a little bit of a stretch. And to be not as emotional as people would anticipate is a little bit of a surprise. But emotions change as quickly as your words and thoughts. And maybe they change because of your words or thoughts, as well as the words and thoughts that you're starting to bring inside. And you may start out happy, and if you're with someone who just brings everybody down as soon as they start getting involved, you start seeing yourself diminish like an elevator going down. And it's a direct relationship to the conversation you're having and primarily the person you're having it with. But what it does show is a huge opportunity if you can master your emotions in the best possible way, to bring out the best in others and make a conversation memorable, worthwhile. There's so much to it. I'm so pleased that Beverly came up with the word emotion. So we've got Carrie here. Uh,
Hey,
Great to see
Carrie.
you. First joke. Why did the peach go on a date with the banana? Because it found it appealing. Well, that's a good joke I could even tell my grandkids. And here's one relating to emotions. Uh, Carrie says emotions can get the better of us if we aren't watchful of them. Exactly, just what we had just shared. Jason's here. Good morning,
Hey,
Beverly, the community, and it came through LinkedIn, and that
wonderful.
hopefully been fixed. That was an issue. Another comment. Great topic. Emotions are signals telling you there is something you should pay attention to.
Yeah.
If we overinvest in them or if we ignore them, that is where we can be challenged. A great point.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. So Beverly, off to a terrific start and a lot of foundation to future thoughts.
Yeah, I'd love to just talk about that last comment. That emotions are telling us that this is something to pay attention to. That's the truth. Okay. It triggers a feeling inside, and we have to relate to that. And right now, just to get right down back what's going on in the world. Kids are going back to school, kids are going back to university, people are getting new jobs. There's always stuff going on in our lives. And right now, you see all these moms saying goodbye to their little kids, and the kid can feel the stress also of now the mom is happy for the child, of course. I'm saying mom, there's dads too, but we're talking about women here. So what happens is it adds to the stress of the child. If mom is saying, hey, I'm so happy, this is your first day of school, make sure you have your lunch and make sure you have this and make sure you have that. Well, what is that child going to say? Yes, it's my first day of school. Uh-oh, I better not forget this, I better not forget that. You are actually adding stress by trying to help somebody. And a child who is saying, and I'm saying anybody, but I'm picking a child right now who says, I'm worried about my first day of school, or you just notice the child is worried, or mom says, are you worried about the first day of school? Which is a trigger right there, right? And then the child may say yes or no or whatever, and you just notice the fidgetiness or whatever it is. And then you start saying, oh, I know when I was a child, and you're telling that story. Well, do you really think that the child wants to hear that? Uh-uh. Okay. That's the thing. You may try to help another person by telling them what you would do, but it's not helpful. The only person that can be helped is the child being able to express what the problem is about. And then you can reach in and accept. But we all want to fix something, and we all want to get those emotions out of there, right? How are you feeling? Fine. Okay. I remember when I had my office, I'm all online now. Everybody can reach me all the time now. So when I had my office, I immediately would say, okay, how are you? And they'd say, fine. And I said, yeah, you're talking to me now. I can see, maybe not so much. Okay. And immediately it's like, oh, I have to fix my makeup. No, you look beautiful on the outside. Don't change it. Okay. And men in particular, I know we're talking about women, but men in particular have a tendency of hiding those feelings. We're in control. But we're all human and we all have those emotions. And to be able not to necessarily understand them, but to express them and feel comfortable that you're in a safe place and you can discuss. So if it's a child we're talking about, you want the child to feel they're comfortable with you. And it doesn't matter what the child says. You've been bullied. Oh, you've been bullied? Well, who was the bully? And let me find out. And let me talk to the school. Well, do you think that that child is going to come to you again? Uh-uh. Okay. So it's hard to listen. It really, really is. And it triggers emotions in us because we want to fix it. And so, like it was said in the comments, that it hits home. It's something you should pay attention to. You pay attention to the other, but you also have to pay attention to your own reaction and your overreaction. And when we are emotionally involved, we have a tendency of reacting rather than slowing down and listening. And that's the key, whether it's in business, that's the key, whether it's in sales. They teach you all that stuff in sales, right? But when you go back home, that's a whole other thing. You have kids coming at you, you have all kinds of other personal stressors coming at you. The whole idea is, as you said, Dawn, slow down and listen, and don't react to your feelings. Think of the other. No stories. We don't want to hear stories, okay? Even if they're funny stories. And how about that, particularly if they're funny stories, because then you're undermining the real sensitivity of the issue. And children suffer from stress. They suffer from anxiety. They suffer from depression. It's not just an adult thing. So when we're talking about emotions, we all have them and they're all important. Dawn, I just wanted to comment on this because it's really important. It triggers something in us. And when something is triggered in us, like you said, it's like, help, what do I do? And I've heard on so many levels, just ordinary situations, particularly with a first child, I must add, that, it becomes such a drama. Like, what do I do? And basically, nothing. Just sit tight, let it evolve, and you will see that your child and yourself, all you do not have to react and fix anything. Often, if you wait a bit, everything will fix itself. And by the way, that happens. Patience, things happen. Okay, so don't let everything fix itself. Trust me. Okay, but if it's a little thing, it's like, let's look at it in the morning. Too much emotion. Let's think on it. Go ahead,
Great
Don.
points. Very good points. I hope someone out there is taking notes and uses brought to mind for me is emotions can betray your conversation, can betray your words. Oh, I'm feeling great, and you're sitting there miserable, and you can't help but sit there miserable because something probably just happened. And
Mhm.
there's so many different emotions. Here's Carl. Love to see Carl. I work so closely with him. He does his Tuesday show prior to this, even though I had a hard time, impossible time logging on
Mhm.
today. And Thursday, he also has launched a new show
Amazing.
that's all about his new community redevelopment group that he's having on
Mhm.
every week, which really takes that to another level beyond an individual, but to a collective. And his comment today was managing my frustration emotion as I continue to address getting people into my audience on my Restream LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And all emotions are guideposts in a way, right? If you're feeling frustrated, obviously something had to happen to make you feel frustrated. It could be internal. It could be someone who feels they're not getting to where they need to go fast enough and it makes them feel a little frustrated, or it makes them feel like they're not doing enough or good enough. At the same time, outside situations, your environment can create emotions. Getting stuck in traffic, right, would get you, especially if you're under the gun for time, will put some pressure on you. And I think, you do have ultimate control over what you think, who you interact with, and what you gather from it. When something feels that way, it probably is that way. And to Beverly's point, some things are fleeting. You're stuck at a light, the light turns green, all the concern goes away as soon as the light changes. Some things are pretty much embedded. Some things you just are always going to have to deal with. So, it's practice, or at least awareness. If you're sensitive to something, be aware of it. If you know you're going to go to a place that's going to trigger certain things, make yourself aware of that. So when it does happen, it's not the total surprise that it used to be. And that's the benefit of evolution. Now we've got Harvey, who just came back from Crete, and I can't wait to hear all about it.
Oh,
And hey, Don and Beverly, good to be here. Just returned from holidays and excited to be back with y'all. Well, we're so excited to have you, Harvey. You're one of the rising shooting stars in our group. And what I love about Harvey and Carl and so many others is they're never happy with just what is. They're always pushing the envelope, always trying to do better, always trying to do better with others, which is another way of improving your emotional state, is not being alone, being with company, having company, and sharing similar situations. And that's why support groups are so important. When you look around, you think, well, geez, I'm not the only one with this issue. And I can learn from each other, and it becomes a productive opportunity. Harvey comes back with emotions, and that's another great thing about Harvey. He's one of the best at putting on 4 or 5 lines of comments. So I always try to learn from that. Emotions are fascinating and powerful. They're sometimes extreme, hard to control, but they drive us. Love, fear, passion, sadness, and happiness. We have said many times on this show, if someone remembers only one thing about you, it will be how you made them feel. So make people feel good. So well put, Harvey. Carl comes back with that's true for adults as well as children, for sure. Uh, these are great comments, and you look for other people to help you identify your emotions in a way that maybe you weren't aware of. Somebody who's close to you could say, "Did you know how you projected just now?" And maybe you got caught up in something, didn't know. Well, maybe it's a time to moderate a little bit or to explain. And I think that's important when you go off and you get triggered. Context really helps, right? If something just happened that nobody knows about, which made you feel a certain way or act a certain way, you can say, well, somebody close to me just moved out of town, a good friend or something, and I've been thinking about it. And sometimes emotions don't shut off as quickly as you'd like. You feel a certain way and you say, well, I got to be on stage in 10 minutes. Some of that still lingers, and you need to make an accommodation. But at the same time, everybody's just like you. So don't feel when the time comes that you feel like you're not the same or what people expected, that there's anything wrong with that. It's really just acting naturally, and people should see you in different environments, in different situations. And over time, they'll get to measure and gauge kind of, is this important or is this person always emotional? And is that just the way they run? There's so much to it. So, Beverly, great to have all these comments. Great to have these good old friends coming back to join us today. What's
Mhm.
your next thoughts?
Well, my first thought is I'm getting my voice back after me in like, much better, Dawn. Yay. Okay, I got it. I'm now on cue. My second thought then is, hi, Harvey, welcome back. Okay, from Crete, which must have been absolutely gorgeous. And then my third thought is, a lot of us do not know how to express our emotions or even feel we're entitled to express our emotions. Um, Staying strong, I'm sure you've heard that. Oh, just suck it up, stay strong, it'll be okay. That kind of thing. And what happens is, depending on where you come from in your own family, some families do not express emotions. You don't know even what you feel. And that can sound really very strange to a lot of people, but it's really the truth. You have this tension and you can't really verbalize it. And if anybody listening has that or understands what that is, it's like, I don't know, I'm fine, like literally, okay. Or anger, everyone knows that one, or frustrated, or stressed, simplistic emotions like that. You're categorizing and you're putting it there. And very often you could just easily say, it's okay, I'm okay, meaning I don't want to talk. Okay. And that's respected and it should be respected and it's perfectly respectable. But you should also know that there's a gamut of emotions that are in there. It's not just black and white. I'm fine or the world's falling apart. And if anyone has a problem with that, check out, I think it's called Pollock or something. It's called really an emotional wheel. All right. Just go online, see, yeah, the emotional wheel, I'm sure. Okay. You'll find it because many people put that out. There's a gamut of all kinds of emotions there. And it's put in categories. So anger would be on one side and it's color coded and all that stuff. It looks real pretty. But basically, what they all are is they show you the gamut of emotions that you can have that come to the anger. So you're not just blowing up. Okay. It's those little things, those little tiny steps, which will get you to the blow up. And that blow up can be a ridiculous thing, like a cup in a sink. And so to know all those gradations of those emotions are really important because you're pinpointing how you feel and you don't even know how you feel. Because are you angry? Yeah, you're angry. But where? Where are you in there? So what that first thing will do is it'll get you to slow down. When we slow down, it dissipates anger immediately. But then once you start to see that there's many different kinds of feelings that go on with them and none of them are bad, how we react to it can be an overreaction and another person can get it the wrong way, that's for sure. But just check it out online. I'm sure there is an app for that. There's an app for everything. And yeah, understand that you may not know how you really feel. You really may not. And as you start talking about it, and this is where a coach can help, a therapist can help, this is where journaling can help. It gets out the stuff that you're just seeing the top layer. And once you start going into the deeper layers and can start to understand that it's not all or nothing, you're so much better for it. As a matter of fact, you will sleep that night rather than being so anxious, upset, nervous because you've hit those top core levels. And it may not be a top core level, you've built it into that. So I would advise anyone, if you are curious, just check out that wheel. A lot of people might have done it right now as I'm talking about it. And it's really interesting because it's not all or nothing at all. So, yeah, Don.
Yeah, great stuff. I mean, and I think it's not only great but valuable. And what comes to mind, and that's the great thing about being with somebody like Beverly, is you don't have to anticipate what you're going to say. You can just follow what's been provided, what's fresh and out there. Is there's always that statement of mixed emotions. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
sometimes you're sad and you're proud. Sometimes you're happy and confused.
Mhm.
So it's not always that delineated. But, to me, the ability to share emotions has a lot to do with your environment. If it's a safe environment, if it's a trusting environment, you don't prejudge what other people are going to think about what they see because that's too complicated. Now you're thinking about what's causing the emotion, you're projecting the emotion, now you're adding into so many things on what are people thinking, and the more you think about what other people are thinking, the less you can focus on what you should be thinking. And then there's always that qualifier that says, well, uh, strong people don't show emotions, or people who show emotions are showing weakness. Well, that's a judgment that I don't know. It's not really relative to you because only you know you and only you know what affects you in different ways. And maybe it is different. And maybe that's the cause of concern where, oh, if they see me this way and they're used to seeing me that way, well, maybe they should have always seen you the right way instead of putting on a, mystique or a different persona, and it's too much to deal with. And I think there's nothing like being organic and natural, and also knowing that at a certain point you're wearing someone out. There's one thing about expressing yourself, and another thing about, there was someone who said the person with a hammer sees everything as a nail, and, when you look at emotions, it's also a way of making people comfortable, and we're usually talking about negative emotions that people are concerned about sharing. But what about the positive emotions? What about enthusiasm? What about excitement when you see somebody? What about a compliment that is emotionally driven? Because you want to put people at ease. And then how do you react to other people's emotions? Are you thoughtful? Are you considerate? Do you let them let it out? And then ask them questions. Boy, you're so happy today. what caused that? I'd like to learn, and complimenting people with expression, because you'll end up hearing deeper communications, because people won't stop at just the second floor. Maybe they'll go as far as the penthouse with you. And I think that's important. Plus, everybody's looking for a shoulder to lean on, someone to talk to, and that's what best friends are for. It's a lot of times what best families for. You could also say it's the worst of things as well as the best of things. But again, it's up to you to adjust your situation to the people you're with, to the conversation you're in, and also learning from it, so you don't have to repeat it. What caused me to be in this mood? Well, I'm going to avoid those situations if I can, or know when I'm getting into them, and don't get dragged through something and then carry it with me, because you're doing a disservice to the next person you meet who had no knowledge or responsibility for what just happened to you. And, it's an evolutionary process. I mean, when you were younger, you had different emotions based on different things, right? If you lost your candy bar or something, that would have created a dramatic situation. And as you get older, sometimes the big things don't deserve as much emotion. I think a lot of times you have to look at what can you control and what can't you control. Things out of your control are not your responsibility. How you react to them is. But ownership is something that people take too much of at times, when it could be shared. You make a mistake, you hurt something. Well, you probably weren't the only one that had a role in it, probably the majority. But I think if you just give yourself some grace, learn to forgive yourself, learn not to take yourself too seriously, and balance, as we talked about in the beginning. So, Beverly, I know you deal with so many people. How do you try to keep everybody on an even keel when possible, to support them, not to minimize what they have to do?
The first thing is really to listen, and to listen and understand where they're coming from. And I teach other people also, particularly when they're working with teams, to listen for the real question, answer, what they're really looking for. And I'm thinking of when you're, okay, make it very simple. When you're thinking with your own brain, it doesn't necessarily work for others. Most likely it doesn't. So I'll give an example of a president of a company who just did not understand that when she gave directives, they weren't followed, or they were followed in a haphazard way. Or another example, when she spoke to um, a colleague in the company, which her company, was paying for, that person would listen, seem to adhere to everything that she was saying, and then would go into tears and talk to other people in the office, saying, I know I'm going to get fired, and carry on with all kinds of stuff. And what would happen, all kinds of drama in the back room, that would go on. And here she had no idea, because the person, the woman in this case, who was extremely good in her job, would not be able to talk to her and be honest with her. And so it causes a tremendous amount of frustration. I'm not a good leader. How do I lead this team? How do I get them to understand? Well, the first thing is, you can't get them or anybody to understand anything. You have to understand what their needs are, and why this person is coming to you and not actually telling you what the real story is. And like she said, I'm known as the bitch. Okay. Well, that's a message right there. Okay. It's not a safe space. So, what you have to do is to change the environment. And the environment doesn't mean you put up flowers, What it does mean is you have to change the working environment where they see that you're much more understanding. By asking the question is the way to get that answered on. Okay. So it's what did they see? And that was what I said. Like, what message are you actually giving? So she says, well, I'm telling them what to do. This is what it is. It's plain and simple. Why don't they just do it? My name is on the check. Do it. Okay.
Mhm.
Doesn't make stuff very simple. It's like, no. Okay. They will do it. They will feel uncomfortable doing it. They don't think they're good enough. But as soon as she said, as I'm known as the bitch in the office, that's the key. Okay. So what you're doing is you're asking. And when you're dealing with emotional intelligence, which by the way, everybody can learn. If you don't have it, you can learn it. And they give courses in business, and there are, okay, it's called EI, not AI, EI. And it really tells you that you have to be self aware, meaning you don't react, and self regulated, meaning that you have to watch your emotions and don't just jump right in. And high level people with emotional intelligence are usually motivated because they're not motivated by the exterior, by fame, by money. All this will come if they're really good leaders. But what happens is you're motivated by the internal stuff, what you are doing. And so you're looking within. These are emotions. What is your why? And your why will tell you. And if it is only money, then ask yourself, why? Why is it only money? What does money mean to you? What has money given you? Ask yourself these deep questions, and you will see that it's more than a why. It's probably, it gives me prestige. It gives me more, perhaps I want to give more to charity. It gives me uh, more vacations that I can spend with my family. It gives me, go deep, understand your emotion, really, of what it really means and go deeper than the prestige. I'm looking at, I'm giving you examples here of emotions, salespeople who love that pellet. Okay. So if you are managing team, give them more pellets. Okay. Don't just compliment them on how much money they're bringing in, because it's more than the money. Maybe they also would like a little mini vacation, a little holiday. It's not necessarily the money, a spa day, a something. So that what you're doing is you're acknowledging people from where they are at. And you say, okay, you're stressed, give you something. And we all love presents, and it doesn't have to be expensive stuff. But if you understand the motivation for each and every one of us, the why, the feeling that you're important, I'm a somebody, you listen. And believe me, if you're in a safe place, just as you were saying, Dawn, you will alleviate the stress. The person will feel that you are friendly and can help, and you're there to help. It really is about service. And it's service to us, our each other. It's service to our kids. It's service to our family. It's service to our clients. It's service everywhere. Just be real. Okay. And I want to just say, I noticed Leslie Flowers out there. Yes, Leslie, incentives. Yes. And it's not always monetary incentives. But what it is it makes you feel important enough to have achieved that. We love that. This is intrinsic motivation. We love it and we need it. And by the way, Leslie wrote a book. Okay. And yes, Leslie, that's huge. Okay. It's huge. And if people are following Leslie, take a look at all the wonderful things she's doing. And she does give service. Yes, service first, as she said, money second for me. Yes, for sure. Dawn.
Yeah, wow. I'm still thinking and coming up with ideas from what I didn't even think I could come up with ideas from based on your latest share. And I want to second the emotion with Leslie. Uh, Leslie's a real pro at what we're doing here, but also has so much experience working with people, sharing, doing classes, writing books, that again, no one's alone. All one has to do is identify maybe an issue and go to a professional, and cut to the chase and get a second set of honest eyes and ears to zoom in on it and come up with what their perspective may be. And, I think the why is so valuable because until you know the why, you don't really know the how to. And once you figure out, oh, this is what this is from, or you start matching it up, it's no different than allergies. If you have a food allergy, all of a sudden you eat something and you have a bad reaction, and you start identifying, well, every time I eat peanuts, this is what happens. You tend to avoid peanuts or accommodate for that. And it's really those surprises that really take people off course. It's like, wow, something little happened and I reacted so dramatically, or something dramatically happened and it didn't even phase me. So again, that's really about taking inventory in a sense and doing it in a thoughtful, interesting way versus a condemning, self-deprivation, deprecating.
Deprecating.
Yeah, that's a better word than the one I just had to make up. Uh, and I think, life is a journey. Life can be fun, and it can be fun as long as you want to see it in a different perspective. And sometimes, you got to change the lens you look through.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's just time for things to make a difference, and maybe emotions are telling you that. And you talk about fear, and that's a huge emotion. What makes somebody afraid makes somebody excited. It becomes an adventure. I mean, I see what people do, and it's like I can't even look at it, let alone do it. It's like
Yeah.
height, something like that. Or when I was a kid, I could be on a roller coaster. I would be the last person to want to stand in line for a roller coaster. And it's usually because the last time you did it was the last time you ever want to do it.
Exactly.
And you're finding that out, but that's a good thing to find out because it's one more thing you don't have to anticipate anymore. And, the thing is, it works for everybody the same way, everyday life, right?
Mhm.
Everybody wakes up and gets different situations, different people in their life, and there's something to be proud of when you can work through something and not let it get to you. That whole thing, well, do they get under your skin, you know? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they intend to do that. And that's the key is people are, say something and they wait. How are you going to react? And if it's like an overreaction, it's like, oh, I know where I can get this person next time. It's like in poker, they say that good poker players can pick up tells, they call them. So if someone's shuffling their chips when they have a good hand and they don't shuffle their chips when they have a bad hand, you start picking those clues up. And, I think that you are who you are, being proud of who you are, being proud of all the good things you've done, allocates a little bit of, okay, well, I wasn't as good as I'm used to, but I'm used to being much better more most of the time. And give yourself a little bit of slack and a little bit of encouragement to say, well, and that's, I think the other thing is put yourself in context. You pick up a new sport like golf. First day, don't expect anything, because you're not going to really probably get much except maybe the joy of learning, the joy of being outside, which is universal for everybody. And there's ways you can mitigate, and there's ways that you can maximize. And I think that's so important. So, um, we've got Dennis here who was having some difficulty. I'm here. I can hear you too finally. Thanks for reminding us to get it done, having fun. Um, so Beverly, this has been so fascinating. We still got about 15 minutes to go, but it just flies so quickly because there's an endless stream of ways one can look at emotions and how one can apply them.
Oh, yes. And when you talked about triggers, Don, the important thing is to take care of ourselves, self care. If you don't get enough sleep, whoa, you're going to be edgy. Okay. If you're hungry, same thing. Okay. Think of that baby who cries for food, right? It's the same as an adult. We may not cry, we may keep those emotions in touch, but you're not on top of your game, right? And when you talk about somebody almost, poking the bear, yes, you come home from work, you're tired, and then now you have to deal with this and have to deal with that. Give yourself a break. Set times, literally regimenting times where you can go home and you can have your own quality time before you get back into the routine of helping everybody else and doing and all of that. I'm thinking of a doctor that I've worked with who was constantly busy at work. And then as soon as she'd leave, if she had to go to the bank and had to stand in line, I mean, she was ballistic. Or in a car, she said, "What is wrong with me?" And then I walk in the door and I'm screaming and yelling. She said, "I don't do that with my patients." She said, and at work, she's calm, she's in control. And then she says, "I'm a lousy wife, I'm a lousy mother, I'm terrible. I can't stand it at home." The bottom line is, yes, that is what you are working for. We lose touch with that. But did you perhaps go home too quickly? That's the thing. Wind down. Okay. Give yourself some time. And for her, she says, as soon as I press the button and land in the garage, I'm hit with trouble. I said, don't go home so fast. You know,
Hmm.
maybe, wait on the corner a bit, listen to some music. Don't let them know you're there. And guess what? She said, how can I do that? Well, try it. And guess what? It worked. Okay, so what you have to start saying to yourself is, where are these triggers? What's happening? What's getting me? Well, for sure, something's going to get you if you're hungry, you're tired, you're angry because of what was going on at work. Don't bring it home. The only way to do that is to decompress. Writing, journaling, there are apps for breathing. Those breathing techniques work beautifully. You can find them. You can find them everywhere. Just open up, Google it, you'll find it. And so know that self-care is extremely important in your overreaction. And the way you react is going to be passed on to everybody else in that family. And if you think that you're going to have a peaceful evening when you come home and you're yelling and you're stressed and you're making supper and you're angry or whatever, you're going to pass that on. So give yourself a break. Give yourself 10 minutes before you walk into that door. Or if you've trained the rest of the family, which is kind of something I did way back in the day, don't talk to me until I get out of my room. That was what I said. Okay. Terrible mother. Yes. And my little girls knew that. And I had one literally tell the other when she was knocking, no, 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 mommy's not out of the room yet. She will talk to you when she's out of the room. And sure enough, I was fine. As soon as I just decompressed, that's it. So you can do what's right for you. You don't have to follow everyone else's instructions. You don't have to think that you're a bad person. If you set boundaries, that's with your kids, that's with your colleagues, that's with your partner, with anybody. You have to be able to express what your needs are, and then you don't explode or implode, I might add, with increased weight, with cigarettes, with other stuff, drinking, you name it. Okay. When we cannot take the stress. So That's my long advice for the day.
Oh, I think that was some of your best advice. And what comes to mind is that old thought, count to 10, right?
Yeah.
Affecting you. And you say, okay, let me count to 10, or like Beverly says, let me leave the scene for a while, because what you can't do is unring a bell, right? Once you say something, you can't take it back. It's already been said, it's heard, maybe also been accepted. And it was you in the moment, it was you based on something that motivated or stimulated that response. And the collateral damage happened to be who was around you, not who
Mhm.
caused it, right? You just came off of a bad situation, and now you got 3 or 4 people at home who are looking forward to seeing you, maybe in a great mood, maybe want to share something really positive, and then you show up like a bull in a china store, and everybody is freaked out, and then everybody feels sorry for you, and the whole mood, the environment, maybe the evening has
Mhm.
been dramatically changed, maybe not for the best. And it's interesting how you can affect things with what Beverly mentioned early, having some patience, knowing this is not the right time, right?
Mhm.
And it's better to find a different time or a different place, or I don't want to talk about it right now, which would be a
Mhm.
better way of dealing with it than let me just share everything that's bothering me, and maybe you feel better. And now they carry your baggage around for the rest of the time they're with you, and they're disappointed. They're wondering, why did I have to hear this? I had nothing to do with it. And you can see some people are venting, and you know it, and you understand it. And at that point, you take it differently, and people feel better. So I guess it's judging the audience you're with. We talk about trust, we talk about safety, when you feel that. And, there's also something that you don't got to dive right into the swimming pool with everything. You don't got to give a maximum velocity. You can just kind of tippy toe, see what the feeling is. If it's like, I don't want to hear that. And some people will tell that to you. I don't want to
Mhm.
go, I don't want to hear that. We've been there before. It always works out this way. Let's fast forward and eliminate it. And again, it's back and forth, but at least it gets you out of yourself. And at the same time, you want to be into self-care, where
Mhm.
certain things can do tremendous damage, because stress really has a negative impact on so many things. And when you find yourself stressed out, it's time to meditate, it's time to take a walk, it's time to do something that will accommodate or work with that. Leslie comes back with us. Yet knowing how is not important. How brings up fear. Why is about faith. To achieve, do not focus on how you would do it. Yeah, I think that, again, semantics, how you use words, what words mean to everybody, something that might be very calming to you may be frustrating to somebody else. Again, because they're coming from a different situation. So if you're
Mhm.
coming from somewhere different, and all of a sudden they're coming from something different than you're used to, now you got two different situations driving two people, and maybe it's unexpected. Dennis says, I am here. I can hear you too finally. Thanks. Great. Uh, as Leslie says, as we grow, new ways to do things will show up. So forget about how. Okay. Carrie says he loves roller coasters. Haven't rode one in a while. When I can afford to, I will. My dad introduced me to them when I was younger. The bigger, the better. Yeah, it goes both ways. Some people just daring, and other people get a little bit more conservative. Uh, Dennis says, uh, your good advice is so nice and not rolling the dice. Dennis is on a roll. Agree. I believe it is the right time to share a rhyme and a dime that help others. And then read the next one, which I'm waiting for. It's not easy when it's not easy. And I think that's the other thing, and I think Beverly just demonstrated having a sense of humor, being able to laugh at things that most people wouldn't be able to, because a lot of times you have to think, what is this, one in a million that this could happen? That it happened to me. And the oddity, the uniqueness of it makes it different. It makes it a little bit more interesting because somehow you typically survive. How well you survive is really up to you. But tomorrow's going to come whether you want it to or not. And, the next person you meet may be the person who gives you the opposite reaction that the one previous came to, because somebody might just be somebody who just fills you with joy, and just they lift you up. And I think if you can be uplifting, now you're using emotions for mutual and collateral benefit, as opposed to me, you know and no one really cares. No one really cares to hear your problems. Typically, people who love you will indulge you, but they would prefer to have you say, this is what happened. It's no big deal, because that's the next step. Is okay. I hear it. I hear it. What's the verdict? Doesn't bother me at all. I'm a little bit disappointed, but I'm moving forward. Versus I'm crushed. I can't go back to that class anymore. And a lot of it is embarrassment, humiliation, but that comes from your own insecurity at times. And when something bothers you, there's probably something within you that allowed that to happen. Because when you're sure of yourself and you're sure of who you are and what you're saying, it's going to take a lot to take you off course. When you're kind of a feather in the wind, you'll go any direction, and you're vulnerable and you're sensitive to it, but being aware of it. But that's the beauty of being human, is things will change, good and bad. Having more good is better than having more bad. That's pretty simplistic. But I think it is self discovery. And by emotions being emitted, it shares it with the world. The feedback you get may be sufficient. And that's why you can share it with Google, and it'll give you an answer. And you don't have to worry about what did they think. They're probably recording everything for forever. But, and that's where going to support groups, that's where going to websites that really focus on it. I'm always understanding something by asking a question, getting an answer, creating a better question, and eventually having enough resources to say, well, this is the conventional wisdom. This is what the science says if you do enough research and it's legitimate. And that gives you some foundation. So, Beverly, 57 minutes and 50 seconds.
All right, down to the corner. Well, let me just say also that the people around you that are most important to you, your family members, and even people who are no longer here, even long dead, okay, can trigger emotions out of you. Okay. And that's the stuff that you have to look at. All right. The people that are closest to you, the people that you haven't dealt with, the people that you want to put to rest, it's not enough. You have to work on yourself. The emotions come from within you. And you have to understand that you're the one that can control your own emotions. Nobody out there can push your triggers. You can push it, but the way you react is your choice. And so watch that and take a look at emotional intelligence. Also, take a look at apps for that. They're there everywhere. To be a good leader, you have to understand not only your own emotions, but you have to understand other people's emotions so that you can have strategies to be able to work together. And that should be strategies, by the way, in a family. If you are a parent, you have to be the leader, not just a friend who leads. And so it's all about strategy. We as humans are filled with emotions. How we harness them, how we direct them, all has to do with our emotional intelligence. And to make sure that you take time for yourself, because you can't just react to every single problem. You have to be able to sleep. You have to be able to eat. You have to be able to organize, or you will be a basket case filled with drama and emotion. Or you'll also have people in your company, in your team, in your office that are those people, and you have to manage them. So, that being said, we're right up to the hour. And I just want to tell you that, yes, if you've been listening to me, I help high performing people negotiate the stress of their business, their families, and their relationships. You can catch me on reinventimpossible.com, or you can ask me any question that you choose after this show. And I want to thank everybody for being here. And Dawn, I want to thank you for allowing me to be here. And once again, it's been a wonderful Tuesday, and I thank you.
Well, I am so grateful for all that you bring, especially the valued insights and the shares that can do so much good for so many people. And I believe we do it in a comfortable way where people aren't really stressed or pressured to learn. Actually, we're looking to learn ourselves from everybody. So,
Mhm.
a good teacher needs to be a good listener in order to continue to support other people. And, it's just great that we have attracted a really quality group of people who are really good in what they do, but also good in how they respond to others and make for a wonderful opportunity for people. So,
Dawn,
go ahead, Beverly,
can I
please.
just add that anybody who's listening, if you have ideas, if you want to join us on the show, call Dawn, okay? Because we're always open to new ideas, new communication, new people, and we're all in this together. This is collaboration. So I just had to say that.
No, I think that's very important and it's very welcoming that, always looking for new guests, always looking to have people reach out to us. I know Beverly supplies a 15-minute call for
Oh,
anybody who wants to share and talk. And I think that's extremely generous and kind of shows you who the person is it's not just about money. It's not just about progress. It's about community. It's about helping everybody help themselves and then help each other. So there's a lot more to it. And there's a lot more to it, everything. And that's why we continue to do these shows. That's why we continue to pick these words. And actually, we're always open to new words. So if you want to share a word that you want to see on another show with me and Beverly, feel free to contribute it in comments. Glad to see it. And before we get off on our next show, while we're still on this show, we'll wish everybody a wonderful day ahead. And, enjoy your emotions, make the most of it. They can really serve you well. So I look at it as a quality opportunity. So, with that said, come back tomorrow or come back next Tuesday or both. We're